last example, I would like to run an exploit for Ubuntu 13.10. So this is a bit lengthy exploit. It takes a little bit of time, but we're gonna give it a shot. So at this point of time, I have this box installed in me on my machine. So I have plenty of them actually at this point of time, but since I installed this particular machine in this particular directory, so if I do vagrant up in this case, it will pick only this and not the others, because in default case the vagrant up picks the vagrant file which is present in in the particular directory itself. So if you have so in case you want to have multiple machines on your guest machine, host machine, what I would recommend is you could create separate directories for each of them, so that the vagrant files do not get clash, don't clash, and you can actually create instances of several virtual machines on your own host machine. So at this point of time, we'll be using this Ubuntu 13.10. Let me show you the vagrant file that I used in order to install that. So this was again the same scenario. This same file was taken from the public available repositories. This was the name. One more thing I would like to point out is that in case when you try to create different vagrant files, now this is a network port that actually connects your guest to the host. So this guest port 80 can remain constant, since every guest would be unique. So in case if you are trying to run two virtual machines on the same host, I would recommend you to change this host to different value. Say for instance, in my case, for this particular file, my host is 8080 host port. Let me show you what I did for another box. At this, I installed 10.04 in my home directory actually. So in this directory I have this vagrant file, and in my kernel exploits I have this vagrant file. So for this, the port is on the host is 8080, and for this my port is 4x8. So this should be different, otherwise it won't allow you, it will throw an error saying that you cannot have two things on one port. So if you want to handle multiple machines on your host machine, then you have to change that particular value. And now moving on to our 13.10 exploit. So this is the port. Everything is properly in place. We'll just SSH into our 13.10 and we'll try to run that exploit. So this is the exploit that we are trying to run actually. For this machine I actually didn't install Vim, so for the sake of aesthetic values we'll just keep Vim. Anyways, so this is our file. Now what it does is this will take some time in order to run the exploit, because it actually depends on the timeout value struct. So this thing is decremented once per second, and they actually try to find a vulnerable area. So we'll try to see if we can make this thing work out. Again, just giving it a name. So okay, now as you can see the process has started, and we have approximately 759 seconds left. So I guess this will take a little bit of time. In the meantime, you can either fast forward this thing and jump directly to the end. I don't know at this moment what is the time at which this thing ends, so you might have to bear with me. And for recording I'm actually using record my desktop, so I'm not sure whether how to but for now we have to wait for 723 seconds in order to get to root. So I didn't check UID here, the ID, but as it is obvious that it should be Vagrant. When it goes into root mode, then we'll check whether it's root or not. So the main essence of our script main.py is basically to create a Vagrant file, a shell script provision file, and to install Puppet modules on your host machine, with which you can actually specify which classes do you want to be installed in your guest machine. So these are the three things that we achieved during using this main.py. And since it's an initial version and there are certain things which can be improved upon, that one factor is the building of kernel within the SSH. If I tried a little bit, but I was unable to get it fixed. So if someone in the future tries to again touch this particular script, if possible, then it would be nice if that particular thing could be solved. And from user interface point of view, this actually takes arguments, command line arguments from the user. So another future work could be that it could be beautified. So a particular form instead of command line arguments could be provided. So any particular file with values can be used, and it can be actually used to replace the background file values and other arguments that are required. So in order to wait for, so the user won't have to wait for every particular command and to provide user inputs in case the program asks for one. So that is one area of improvement that could be done. And one other thing is the maintaining dependencies within the Puppet modules. Since if you try to use one Puppet module from the Puppet labs, like the one we used in earlier examples, Puppet Lab Apache, if installing that particular thing using Puppet module command will actually install all the dependencies, but for the packages to appear on your guest, you have to do the changes in default.pp manually. So if we can just, I can take a look here. So these are the basic components in Puppet. So this directory will contain all the modules. This is for the sole reason that we actually provided module paths specifically in our script. So if you see our script, if you see the script, the module path is specifically specified. So from the current directory, Puppet and modules. If you don't specify this, then it will actually go to the default directory of Puppet executable, but this is just for the sake of keeping a uniformity in the modules. So this thing can be also removed, but for now these are the two basic directories that are involved within Puppet. So this will contain all the modules, whatever you install through Puppet modules. Even if you provide different path, then it will get to different directory, but if you keep the directory same, it will get populated here. And the main file to be kept in mind is this one, because this is the entry point for the Vagrant file to start provisioning. So if you see the Vagrant file, this path actually specifies from where you can find out the entry point within the directory, so that provisioning can start up from there. This is for the purpose that it can fetch the values from of the class that you provide in your default.pp. It can directly get the values from this particular directory and install the things in your guest machine. So another point of improvement could be automation of generation of this script. For instance, at this point of time it's just keeping one. In case you want other modules, like I might have something else on my machine, yeah. So if there is MySQL, so here you have server.pb. In case you want MySQL server on your virtual machine, you might have to include this particular class in your default.pp as well. So in the essence, this is the basic reason Puppet is being used is only because you can create dependencies between the previous step and the next step. For shell script, it's like if one fails, the second one will continue if it is successful. But in case of Puppet, if the first one fails, which is the on which the second one is dependent, then the second one won't execute unless the first one is being fixed. So this is one property that you gain from using Puppet. Otherwise, the difference between shell and using Puppet is not that much. But for beginning, you can use shell in order to install packages, but Puppet will give you a more organized approach. So in order to include MySQL server, you might have to include this particular thing in your default.pp. So the basic thing module does is you just have to provide this. You don't have to do all these configurations. Yeah, you might provide these values as well, but if you want to have a default value, you can actually just include this particular thing and your basic setup of MySQL will be done. So another point of improvement could be the automation of default.pp. At this moment, it has to be written manually. So this thing has to continue, but other than that, it's perfectly fine to we still have 260 seconds left, so that means around 4 minutes. After that, I think we should be able to get the root. So this was the basic project that was done. So it's very helpful if you use Vagrant. You can actually create one environment, and if someone else wants to create a similar kind of setup, all he needs is this Vagrant file and changing of these directories if possible, or nothing else. Because if this thing is provided, and if you create, or even if you have everything, and suppose you have created a box which actually contains everything and all the modules that you provided here, all the packages that you provided here, and it contains everything, you can still create the box of that, and then you can publish it, and it can be used by several other people. So these are advantages of Vagrant, that you can create an environment and you don't have to create it every other time when you try to execute something. So we actually used this to create several environments which were used to run kernel exploits. I was not able to execute the exploits for the packages, like the exploits within the Apache, within the MySQL, because I wasn't able to do that. So the examples that are provided in the videos are basically and strictly kernel exploits. I have also written a crawler which actually it's a simple crawler which crawls all the exploits from the exploit.db database. So the starting point has been provided as the page which, so if you see this, We still have 120 seconds, so I think I can go through the crawler part. So this is the small simple crawler that I have created using Scrapy. So it actually starts with this particular URL, which is the exploits for the Linux platform from the exploit DB. So, and the X paths are actually exactly from the web page. I took the location and all the values from the web page. So if there is any change in the web page, which is not till now, this thing has to be modified. So it does nothing. It actually just goes for every page. It checks out the for every row, and it finds out the column with these values. This is just for the sake of keeping a record in this case someone wants to actually put the records into a database. And in the end, I'm just actually downloading it, the file, using retrieve, and the file name is whatever is present in this particular d-link value of the, so whatever would the name of the last argument of the d-link, it will be included in the file name. And so this is the basic crawler that actually does everything and fetches all the exploits from the Linux. So few of them has been tested, not everyone has been tested, because for the platforms are different. For most of the cases you have different packages, so a array of testing is required before this thing is actually used by everyone. But for the time being, main.py can actually build you a basic structure of a background file and a provision sh and the Puppet modules. I think we are about to get over into root. Oh, yep. So as you can see out there, we have actually ventured into root. So this thing actually takes almost 10 minutes. This particular root, this was for 13.10 Ubuntu. So if you exit from it, you can again, you are back to the background. So that's pretty much from the demo point of view. Thank you.